They said the house on Hollow's End Hill had a heartbeat. That if you pressed your ear against its door on Halloween night, you could hear it pulsing slow, heavy, and wet, as though it were alive. Every year, on the last stroke of midnight, the rusted gates would unlatch themselves, the front door would creak open, spilling a faint glow onto the dead grass, and every year, children dared each other to go inside. But the trick was, none ever came back. That was the legend, at least. No one knew where the house had come from. Some said it was built before the town itself. Others whispered it appeared one autumn long ago, materializing from the fog after the church bells tolled 13 times. For most people, it was just a story, a good one to tell beside the fire, a good reason to keep your kids indoors when the pumpkins begin to rot. But for Elias Ward, 17 and restless, legends were fuel. Halloween had always been Elias's favorite night. Not for the candy, not even for the parties. It was the one night the town seemed honest. The masks, the fog, the flicker of dying candles in windows. It all felt more real than daylight. He and his best friend Lucian Hale had grown up together on the edge of Hollow's End. Lucian had always been pale, quiet, and a bit strange. His skin too cool, his eyes too sharp, and his voice a calm that made people uneasy. But to Elias, Lucian was family. That Halloween, the two stood at the crest of the hill, wind howling around them, staring at the dark silhouette of the house. "You hear that?" Elias asked, breath fogging in the cold air. Lucian tilted his head. "The wind?" "No, underneath it." From far off came the faintest thud, rhythmic, like a slow, buried heartbeat. Lucian didn't answer. His expression didn't change. "Every year it opens," Elias murmured. "Every year, kids go missing." "Don't you want to know why?" Lucian's voice was soft. "Curiosity has teeth, Elias." "Then let it bite," Elias said, and took a step forward. The gate was already open. They walked the long path lined with dead trees, whose branches reached like fingers. The grass crunched underfoot, dry, brittle, as if drained of life. The front door gaped, its hinges sighing as they approached. A faint orange light flickered within, like candlelight seen through gauze. Inside, the air was thick with dust and rot, but underneath it was something else, a sweetness, faint but cloying, like fruit left too long in the sun. "Smells like something dying," Elias whispered. Lucian didn't reply. His eyes, strange and reflective, scanned the shadows. The foyer was enormous. Torn drapes hung like cobwebs. A chandelier lay shattered across the floor, its crystals glittering like frost. The portraits on the walls were warped by time, faces smudged into ghosts. "Do you think it's true?" Elias asked. That it eats souls?" Lucian's voice was nearly a whisper. "Not eats. Collects." Elias turned to him. "You say that like you've seen it." Lucian looked away. "Maybe I have." Something in his tone made Elias hesitate, but then a faint sound drew his attention. Laughter. Childlike, distant. It echoed from upstairs. Without thinking, Elias climbed the staircase. The steps groaned under his boots, dust swirling in beams of pale moonlight. At the top, a hallway stretched into shadow. The laughter came again, closer this time. He followed it to a room at the end, a nursery, its wallpaper peeling, its toys scattered in gray with age. And in the center of the room stood 3 figures, children. They were translucent, their eyes hollow white. When they turned toward Elias, their mouths opened in silent screams, and the laughter twisted into something else entirely. Elias stumbled back. The air grew cold enough to burn. "Lucian!" he shouted. His best friend appeared instantly, silent, composed. His hand gripped Elias's shoulder. "You shouldn't have come here." The children's forms wavered, like mist hit by a strong wind, and vanished. Elias's chest heaved. What the hell were those? Lucian's gaze lingered on the empty air. Remnants. What's left when the house takes what it wants? Souls? Lucian nodded once. Elias stared at him. How do you know that? Lucian's eyes gleamed faintly in the dark. Because I felt the hunger before. They retreated to the hallway, where moonlight cut sharp lines through cracked windows. Elias leaned against the wall. You're not making sense. Lucian's expression was unreadable. You asked why I never go out in daylight, why I don't eat, why I stay the same year after year. Elias swallowed. I figured you were just weird. I am, Lucian said softly, but not like that. He turned his wrist upward. His veins pulsed faintly blue under the skin. Then, with a slow motion, he bit his thumb. No blood welled out. I am bound by darkness, Lucian said. A creature that should not exist. My kind once walked freely until the old houses were built. The old houses? Lucian nodded. They were prisons for the things even darker than us. The builders learned to trap evil in wood and stone, to keep the world safe. But when the seals weaken, the house wakes, Elias finished quietly. Yes, and it hungers for what it has lost. Elias stepped back, heart pounding. So you're saying that thing is alive? Lucian looked toward the stairs, where the faint heartbeat pulsed through the floor. Alive enough to want what it no longer has. A soul. They descended into the basement. The smell grew worse. Damp earth, metal, and something sickly sweet. The walls were slick with condensation. At the bottom of the stairs stood a door. It was carved with symbols that glowed faintly red in the darkness. Lucian stopped. This is it. The heart of the house. Elias touched the wood. It was warm. Why open for Halloween? He asked. Because that's when the veil is thinnest, Lucian said. It calls to the living. It needs fresh souls to keep itself from rotting away. Elias looked at him. Then we end it. Lucian's lips curved slightly. You make it sound so simple. He pressed his hand to the door and hissed as smoke rose from his palm. The wood burned his skin. The house remembers me, he said through clenched teeth. It was built with my kind's blood. Elias' mind spun. You said you could stop it. I can, but it comes with a price. Before Elias could speak, the door pulsed, once, twice, and then burst open. The room beyond was vast, circular, lit by hundreds of flickering candles. In the center lay a pool of black water, perfectly still, its surface reflecting nothing. The heartbeat came from below it. Lucian stepped forward, his reflection distorted on the water's surface. That is where it keeps them. The souls. Elias felt the air thicken. He heard whispers, faint cries, laughter, and sobbing all at once. Lucian, he said, voice shaken. We have to do something. Lucian nodded, eyes dark. Then remember me kindly. He stepped into the pool. The moment Lucian's foot touched the water, the candles blew out. Elias screamed his name, but the darkness swallowed his voice. The water churned violently, and from its depths rose faces, dozens, hundreds, twisted and crying out in agony. Lucian stood among them, his body glowing faintly blue, his hands raised. The house groaned, wood snapping and walls shuddering. Elias fell to his knees as the air turned electric. He saw the vampire's outline flicker, his veins glowing brighter and brighter. Lucian's voice echoed through the room, ancient, commanding. "By blood and shadow, I break the seal that binds this hunger." The souls screamed. The water erupted upward, a torrent of light and shadow. And then, silence. The candles reignited. The pool was gone. In its place stood Lucian, pale and shaking. His eyes, once bright silver, were now dull gray. "It's done," he whispered. The heartbeat had stopped. The house was still. Elias ran to him. "You did it! You saved them!" Lucian's lips curved faintly. "No, Elias. I freed them. But the hunger needed somewhere to go." Elias froze. "What do you mean?" Lucian looked down at his trembling hands. Black veins were crawling up his arms. "The house took me instead." The walls began to weep, thin streams of black liquid running like tears. The windows shattered, and the house shuddered as if gasping its final breath. Lucian fell to his knees. Elias tried to lift him. "There has to be a way to stop it." Lucian's voice was barely audible. "Every prison needs a soul to hold it closed. You can't kill hunger. You can only contain it." Elias shook his head. "No, you're not. You can't." Lucian smiled weakly. "You were always the light, Elias. Don't let this place take you too." The floorboards cracked. The walls folded inward. The entire house seemed to inhale. Lucian's eyes glowed faintly, one last time. "Go." Elias was thrown backward by a blast of wind. He crashed through the doorway, tumbling onto the frozen earth outside. When he looked up, the house was collapsing in on itself, shrinking, darkening, until it was nothing but a shadow in the mist. And then it was gone. Only the dead grass remained. For months afterward, the hill was bare. The townspeople said the curse had finally ended. No doors opened that Halloween. No children went missing. Elias stopped speaking of it. He avoided the hill. He told himself Lucian's sacrifice meant peace. But one night, nearly a year later, as the first pumpkins began to appear on porches again, Elias heard something. A faint, slow thud coming from beneath the ground outside his window. He froze. Another beat, then another. The same pulse he'd heard on Hollow's End Hill. He ran outside, heart hammering. The air was cold, the moon sharp and white. At the edge of the yard stood a figure, tall, pale. Lucian. His clothes were tattered, his eyes black as ink. Elias stepped closer, trembling. "Lucian?" The vampire tilted his head, a sad smile curling his lips. "You shouldn't have come back." Elias's voice broke. I didn't. You... Lucian took a step forward, and the ground around him rippled like liquid shadow. "The house still needs a keeper," he said, "and now it has me." Elias backed away. "Lucian, you can't fight it." Lucian's voice was hollow. "Not anymore. But I can keep it from hungering again, if no one opens the door." Elias's breath came fast. "What door?" Lucian looked toward the fog shrouded hill behind him. There, where the grass had been barren for months, stood the house once more, whole and waiting, its windows glowing faintly orange. The gate creaked open. Lucian turned back to Elias, eyes full of something like sorrow. "Stay away this Halloween." Then he vanished into the fog. The next year, Hollow's End was quiet. No one went trick-or-treating near the hill. Parents warned their children. The fog came early that October, thick and heavy. Elias couldn't sleep. Every night he dreamed of Lucian, standing in that house, forever listening to its heartbeat. On Halloween night, at midnight, he found himself walking toward the hill again, unable to stop. The gates were open, just like before. The air hummed with energy. He saw the faint glow from inside, and standing in the doorway was Lucian. His expression was calm, almost peaceful. "You came back." "I had to," Elias said. "I can't let it take you." Lucian stepped forward. "You can't save me, Elias, but you can save yourself." He reached into his chest. His hand emerged holding something faint and glowing. His own soul, flickering like a dying candle. "Take it," he said. "It's the last of what I was." Elias shook his head, tears streaming. "I can't." "You must. If you don't, the house will open again next year." Elias reached out, and the moment he touched it, the world went white. The house screamed, its windows shattering, its form twisting and burning until nothing remained but ash and silence. Elias woke at dawn in the empty field, the fog lifting. The house was gone, so was Lucian. He felt something burning in his chest, a faint glow under his skin. And from far away, he thought he heard Lucian's voice. "Every prison needs a soul to hold it closed." The following Halloween came and went. No gates opened. No children vanished. The hill remained empty. But Elias changed. He grew pale. He stopped eating. He never went out in daylight. Sometimes, when the moon was full, people said they saw him walking the hill, whispering to someone unseen. And on cold nights, if you pressed your ear to the ground where the house once stood, you might hear it, faint but steady. A heartbeat.